everyone, welcome to my channel. Now we take in our discussion SA 550. SA 550 is revised on 1/4/2010. SA 550 related parties. Okay, SA 550 itself says that the related party means a related party defined in the applicable FRF, Financial Reporting Framework. Or what is the SA which is about the related party is what is the as about the related party is as 18. As 18 define the related party is the father, mother, spouse, brother, sister. And if any person or any entity which have significant influence or control in any entity are also related party for that particular entity. Okay, then another entity in common control, common control by way of the ownership by close family members or common control in terms of key management, then also they are related parties. But common control by state is not covered in this particular aspect. Okay, so what is the common control here? For example, if in A Limited XYZ is key managerial personnel, and in B Limited X and Y is key managerial personnel. So there is some common control in both the entity. So they are relative to each other. Subsidiaries, associates is also covered in the related party terms. Okay, because there is the common ownership concept here. 50% or more shareholder are same now. So then audit procedure. Now our work is a start. As an auditor, what's our duties? We applied obviously we applied risk assessment procedure, further audit procedure to identify what we identify here. We identify the related parties of that entity. But there is a big complex task. So firstly, we check how management identify the related parties. Okay. Then we check what applicable other provisions is applied or authorized by the entity or not. For example, if we talk about the Companies Act 2013, there is the provision about the related party in section 189, 188 and 184. If we talk about the income tax, then there form 3CD, there is a clause 23 which is also says that entity, any enterprise not disallowance of the expenses of excessive or unreasonable payments of the related parties in section 40, section 40A 2B. Okay, so here firstly we identify the authorization and approval of the approval of the related party. For example, if management authorize the related party transaction, wherever audit committee in section 177 is applicable, the approval of audit committee is taken by the management or not. If any related party transaction will be entered by the entity, so prior approval by the shareholder is required, and ordinary resolution in board meeting is always required in each and every related party transaction if there is a company. Okay, so all the requirements is complied by the management or not. Okay, so this transaction is appropriately recorded and disclosures are appropriately given by the entity or not. This also we check here. Okay, then CARO 2016 Companies Auditor Report Order 2016 is also talk about the related party in its para 3 clause 13, where As an auditor, we should report the applicable section 188 and 177 and 188 compliances. Okay, and in Caro 2016 para 3 clause 3, we also define the loan to the related parties. Register of the loan in under section 189 is properly recorded loan to the director or not. It's also reported by auditor. Okay, so Caro 2016 is also refer here. Then one more thing here, form 3CD. Form 3CD clause 23 about the disallowances of the unreasonable and excessive payments to related party in 48 2b is also filled in form 3CD in clause 23. We define the related party name, the date of the transaction, the amount of the transaction. Okay, about the related party where disallowances, disallowed expenses if it is unreasonable or excessive to the related parties. Okay. Income Tax Act to define the related party linear ascendant, linear descendant. Okay. Then we talk about the Caro, we talk about the Companies Act, we talk about the Income Tax Act. This all should be right in exam whenever we answer about essay 550. Okay, it's compulsory. It's compulsory. Okay, from my side. Then possible sources for identification of related party. As an auditor, how we recognize, how we identify the related party transaction, how we check the related party transaction. We can check the income tax return, we can check the invoices, we can check the minutes of meetings, we can check the internal auditor's report, we can check the management register in 189. Okay, these all documents we can check, but this question is very important from exam point of view. So I give a memory trick here about the 14-15 points. Okay, my memory trick is I inform terms of contract in 55 minutes to internal auditor and shareholder. I for income tax return and I for information to regulatory authority. Then terms of contract with the management ECWG, terms of contract renegotiated and terms of contract which are not in ordinary course of business. Then 55 is 505, that is external confirmation. You should take the external confirmation from the bank, third parties, from related parties also, so that you can cross check the amounts. Then in is I for insurance policies, life insurance policies acquired by the entity. If any life insurance policy on related party, then here you should check. Then I for investment, if investment in the related party or related entities, then also you check here. Then 55 already I say minutes, 55 minutes, board minutes, board meeting minutes, management board meeting minutes, TCWG meeting minutes and shareholder meeting minutes. You should check, because in each and every meeting the related party transaction is discussed, because they are approved the related party transaction, shareholder approve the related party transaction, board approve the related party transaction by voting. So it is best evidence, you can check this. Then internal auditor report, what internal auditor say about the related party in his report is also important. Then shareholder register. Shareholder register is to show you the significant shareholders in the entity. Okay, so you check income tax return so that you can get the information about the form 3CD 48-2B. Okay, then information to regulatory authorities, file with the securities regulator. Here you know what in security regulators documents, prospectus etc. you file, where also related party transaction is disclosed now, so you should check this. Then contract, obviously contractual terms, you should check the what the contractual terms between the related party and the entity. I say that there is no any prohibition that any entity cannot do any transaction with related party, but restriction on the amount. So there is no any unreasonable or excessive amounts paid by our entity to related persons. So as an auditor we check this. Okay, so you should check the contractual terms. You also check the renegotiated terms. Any change in contractual terms you should check here. Then any transaction which is not in ordinary course of business, then also you check why this transaction is exceptional and why this transaction is with related parties, so why they give the discount to only related parties. Then you should check any transaction which is not in ordinary course of business. I only give an example that there is no any policy in our entity that we give our goods on discount, but we give 50% or more cash discount or trade discount to any related party. So as an auditor we evaluate this transaction, we take the we inquire from the management, we say to management what is the reason behind this. So you should check the contractual terms. Contract maybe of sale, maybe of lease, maybe of hire purchase, maybe of rendering of services, any type of contract you should check the rendering, you should check the terms of contracts. Okay. Then finally, any unidentified or undisclosed transaction, this is most important question. You firstly you say to the management that define the related parties transaction, but any transaction which is not identified or even though not disclosed in 189 register, in as 19 disclosures, anywhere. So firstly you should inquire from the management why they are not disclosed this. Okay, then you communicate this transaction with all your engagement team. You share this information with your engagement team. Obviously you alone is not auditor na, you do audit with your team partners. So there can be employees, there can be articles, there can be another auditor. So you should communicate this information with all other engagement team members. Then you inquire from the management about the reasons of failure to disclose the transaction. Then you should inquire from the management about the reasons why they are not disclosed this transaction. Then again you tag the other all transactions of that particular related party. If there is any other related party which is not disclosed anywhere, then any other transaction with that newly identified related party should also checked by you. Checked by checked by substantive analytical procedure you apply on newly identified related party. Substantive analytical procedure, further analytical procedure, all other procedures. Then if you find that there is any inconsistencies or there is any non-disclosures identified, then you should take implications on your report. Sometimes we say we modified our report, sometimes we say we qualified our report, sometimes we write that as per 705 we give negative opinion, we give adverse opinion, we disclaimer of opinion. But whenever we are unable to understand what we write about the opinion, then we simply write give implication in audit report in exam. So implications may be you give the negative opinion according to circumstances. You give implications in your report. So it is safe side. You should write here that we give implication on our audit report. Okay. Then related party transaction outside the entity's normal course of business. Then you should check the authorization, approvals, appropriateness of the transaction, appropriateness of the disclosure of the transaction, terms of the transaction, and if there is any, you should make sure that this transaction which is not in ordinary course of business is not fraudulent transaction. Okay, or not misleading the assets, etc. Okay, or misappropriate the assets or misleading the financial position, etc. Okay, so this all about SA 550. We take a revision here. SA 550 revised on 1/4/2010 related parties. Meaning is defined in financial reporting framework, that is accounting standard 18. We are define the related party as spouse, father, mother, brother, sister. Okay, any person or other entities that have control or significant influence of the entity is also a related party. Another entity in common control of ownership, common control of close family members, common control of key management is also a related parties. Then audit procedure, you should apply the risk assessment procedures and substantive analytical procedures to identify and authorize the related party authorization, approval of such related party transaction, and appropriateness about the disclosures of the related party transaction. You should also check the Companies Act 2013 provision. As per section 177, wherever any entity where audit committee is compulsory, they take the approval of audit committee or not. As per section 188 about the related party transactions, where the board resolution in board meeting and ordinary resolutions, special resolution in general meeting is required about the specified limit is taken by the entity or not. 189, related party transaction register is maintained or not. Then 184, disclosure of related party transaction by the management or not. Then CARA 2016, para 3 clause 13 says about the related party transaction, where this says that 177 and 180 in this audit report, auditor says the 177 and 188 is complied. Then para 3 clause 3, it says about the loan to the related party, that is loan to the directors. Then form 3CD says that in clause 23 says the disallow of the unreasonable and excessive payments to related parties in 48 through 2B. Okay, then possible sources for the identification of related party. I inform term of contract in 55 minutes to internal auditor and shareholder. I for income tax return and invoices. Then information to the regulatory authorities and document filed with securities regulator. Then contractual terms, contract renegotiate and contract which is not in ordinary course of business. Then I for the life insurance policies, investment, and those of its pension plans. Then minutes of the board meeting and minutes of general meeting and minutes of TCWG meeting. Then to internal auditor report, and to shareholder register for significant shareholders. Okay, this all is the possible sources where we can identify the related parties or related party transactions. Then if any unidentified or undisclosed transaction, then you communicate this transaction to our engagement team. Then communicate to then inquire from the management about the reasons of failure to disclose this transaction. Then also other transaction which is held with the newly identified related parties also checked by our team. Then apply the risk assessment procedure and further audit procedure on the newly identified related party transaction. Then give implication on the report if non-disclosure identified about this newly identified transaction. Then related party transaction outside the entity's normal course of business, then you check the authorization, approvals, appropriateness for the disclosures. Then you also check the terms of the contracts with the management. Then if there, you should make sure that there is no any fraudulent financial reporting or concealment of fact or misappropriation of asset. Okay, this all about SA 550. Thank you very much.